Hello everyone, my name is Becca, and I've been watching a lot of vlogs lately with people going through IVF and fertility issues and everything like that, and I kind of wanted to share my experiences and my stories with it. We're only kind of beginning to tiptoe into this territory, but so I guess here's the scoop. My husband was tested for the first time about 5 years ago, and he has very low testosterone and sperm count. So they originally put him on a medicine, and I don't remember what it was called, but due to like financial issues and being out of town and just a combination of things, he ended up going off of this pill, and we just kind of went on a little hiatus for, well, about 4 or 5 years, I guess. So last fall, maybe winter, we went back to the fertility clinic, and they have him back on something called clomiphene, and he went and got tested about 3 months after being on this pill, and they actually did improve his sperm count pretty significantly. It's still very low, but the doctor does feel confident that if we were to do IVF that it would work for us. So it was scheduled for him. He had this news in January, and he wanted to have him go another 3 months and have him be on these pills still, and then come back in 3 months, which would have been sometime in April, to have the levels rechecked and all that, and start potentially talking about IVF, like maybe taking it and freezing it at that time and picking out the viable sperm from it. However, at the end of January, I ended up going to the ER for stomach pain and like lower abdominal pain, a little bit of side pain. I thought that I had appendicitis, and I think the ER doctors at that point were pretty convinced that I had like appendicitis or a gallbladder issue or something like that. So they didn't admit me, I guess. I stayed in the ER, but they they got me hooked up to the IV, gave me some pain medicine, which helped some, but not a lot. So they took me in for a CT scan, and when I got out, the nurses came back in, and they're like, okay, well, your appendix looks great, your gallbladder looks just fine, liver and kidneys all look normal, they seem to be functioning very well, but you have a 15 centimeter mass on your uterus. I'm like, what? Oh, well, it's just a fibroid. They're just fibroids. They're pretty common. They're typically not cancerous. And I'm just kind of thinking to myself, well, you could have opened with that because you just took about 10 years off my life there for a second. So then all of a sudden we're, just dealt this whole different card, a whole different, I can't talk. I'm sorry. We were just dealt this whole different issue on top of the, the low sperm count issue. So finally, I'm an emotional train wreck at this point. I don't really know what's going on. I'm pumped with all this pain medicine. It's just making me feel all just loopy and upset. I'm just bawling, begging, like, hey, can you take this out now? Like, but of course they wouldn't, because they need, an OB consult and everything like that. So I talked to my OB, which then talked to our fertility doctor, and the fertility doctor wanted to kind of go ahead and do his own ultrasound on it, so he had me come in, and ultimately we ended up scheduling a myomectomy to have those fibroids removed. So April 13th, which April would have been the month that we probably were going to be looking at IVF to begin with, now turned into surgery month. But it's okay. They were on the outside of my uterus, so as of right now, the doctor doesn't think it was affecting me fertility-wise. It's just kind of like I can't help but be annoyed that this got thrown at us, but really it could have been a lot worse, so I really shouldn't complain. But I went ahead and had my myomectomy on Friday, April 13th, so I had surgery on Friday the 13th, but everything went really well. I'm very close to being 1 month post-op, and I have my post-op appointment a week from today. So I'm hoping here in the next, he said he wanted me to be about 3 months post-surgery before we were looking at IVF, so hopefully we're looking ideally somewhere around July, but again, that's just kind of where we're at right now. I'm hoping these videos get a little bit more interesting as time progresses, because right now that's really boring. I may go ahead and do an update video of my post-op appointment, because I'm going to start asking him some things like, okay, since you found these fibroids, they might have been outside of the uterus, but am I at a risk for like polycystic ovarian disease or endometriosis? I don't really know. That was not a concern of his when he originally tested me for all these things about 4 or 5 years ago, so I'm really hoping that that is something that I'm not going to have to worry about, but we'll see. And I guess for now, that's all I got. For those of you who watch, thank you, and for those of you that don't watch, which will probably be like everybody, I'm sure I'll be the only person viewing this video, but y'all take care.